Thanks for being here. Now this. Russian President Vladimir Putin testing the mettle of America and our allies as he continues to lay the groundwork for the most telegraphed Russian invasion since the 1940s. It's becoming inevitable as Russia is lining up over 100,000 troops along the Ukrainian border. But President Vladimir Putin is creating a false sense of urgency for Russia, acting like he's the real victim here against Ukraine.
We are told war, war, war. We have an impression that the Ukraine government is probably preparing the third military operation and warning us beforehand. Do not get involved. Do not defend those people. If you get involved and defend, then the new sanctions will follow.
Unbelievable. It's classic Soviet propaganda coming from Vladimir Putin. Act like Russia isn't the aggressor and then demand the rest of the world rally behind the oppressed Russians. The Biden administration obviously disputes their claims. Here's Jen Psaki earlier this week.
President Putin has his own audience. It is not the United States of America. We don't have aggressive intent with Russia, and certainly the aggression we've seen at the Ukrainian border, the bellicose rhetoric, has been coming from one side.
Really? But what, if anything, can this administration do to stop Vladimir Putin's brazen takeover or invasion? Here now, former CIA station chief, Fox News contributor, Dan Hoffman, who worked in Moscow full-time. Dan, first off, what was your take from that 4-hour presser? Hard to sum up something like that, but what's your takeaway?
Well, you know, Vladimir Putin is testing the resolve of the Biden administration. He's threatening military aggression with 100,000 troops on the Ukrainian border in an effort to extort the United States and NATO to recognize Russia's sphere of influence. I listened to the press conference. One of the key moments for me was when Putin said that, of course, Russia wanted to focus on their internal issues, but they can't because of this threat from Ukraine. Putin wants to portray himself as the only defender of Russia, the besieged fortress, that the West is mounting these attacks against him when nothing could be farther from the truth. The question for us right now is whether the Biden administration will step up with the right kind of policies to deter Russia's aggression.
They want to stop NATO from expanding. They want a guarantee that Ukraine and Georgia will never be in NATO. They want to go back to 1997 when many of those nations prior to the collapse of the Soviet Union were in the Warsaw Pact. In fact, they've been trying to get talks with the U.S. president, with Barack Obama, with George W. Bush, and Donald Trump to talk about stopping the expansion of NATO. All three prior presidents said no. This one's willing to talk. Is that the good move?
Well, it's giving Putin the kind of positive reinforcement that Putin wanted for having ratcheted up the pressure on Ukraine. And let's be clear here that NATO was discussing offering Georgia and Ukraine membership action plans back at the Budapest summit in 2008, and that is what spurred Vladimir Putin into action against Georgia first with a hybrid war in the summer of 2008, and then against Ukraine in 2014 when he annexed Crimea and attacked in the Donbass. That wasn't enough for Ukraine because just earlier this month, NATO General Secretary Stoltenberg was talking about Russia not having a veto over Ukraine's foreign policy, including NATO membership. Well, Putin wants one. And if we give him that, then we will have done incredible harm to Ukraine's democracy. And that's what Putin wants.
So this week we're going to continue to talk. You also said something interesting in that Vladimir Putin put 100,000+ troops on the border. You said that he's just going to pull them back because it will make him look bad. How does he save face, and how do we get them not to invade? Where's the sweet spot there?
That's the concern. He's created a false sense of urgency with highly public demands, and it is hard to step back from all of that. Honestly, this is reminiscent to me of Hitler's march on Europe. I think Putin took a lot of lessons from that. He claims he's defending ethnic Russians in Ukraine, which was exactly the logic that Hitler used when he took a piece of Czechoslovakia in the Sudetenland. And I think that's going to be the challenge for the United States and our NATO allies. How do we climb down from all of this? And I think that's where the Biden administration will put a premium on collection from our intelligence community. What is really going on in the Kremlin? What are Putin's plans and intentions? I'm sure that the U.S. intelligence community, CIA in particular, is on high alert on this one.
Dan, true or false, one thing has blown up in his face, and that the Ukrainians aren't ready to break. They've actually unified. They've gotten stronger, and they've gotten more nationalistic. They're willing to fight. I'm not convinced the Russians want dead bodies. They don't want a real fight. They would just like to crush an opponent. The Ukrainians are overmatched, but they will fight to the end. And I think Vladimir Putin knows that.
I agree with you. I think that's the risk of Putin's brinkmanship. It also demonstrates his weakness. He's really concerned that if Ukraine joins NATO and the European Union, that'll bring all sorts of democratic ideas, which is really what threatens his regime more than anything, to his neighbor. And I think that's what's of concern to Vladimir Putin. And for sure, Putin understands. And more importantly, he doesn't care about his public opinion, but he does care what his inner circle thinks. He knows he would spill an inordinate amount of blood and treasure if he were to fight in Ukraine.
Dan Hoffman knows this very well, and he's very concerned about it, and that should concern all of us. Dan Hoffman, thanks so much.
Thank you. Happy Christmas.
You got it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.